I am the Lonely Necron, and welcome to my basement. So today, on a planet that is not the cemetery planet, it just happens to have a cemetery, a small patrol of Thousand Suns encounters a medium-sized patrol of AdMech, and they're probably not gonna sit down and have tea, so we'll do a little chaos AdMech fighting today. So in my head, this is like a ruined castle cathedral thing on a hill with some outbuildings on the side, and then this graveyard cemetery thing kind of like in the backyard or whatever. That's the board that we'll be using today. So here we have today's AdMech force, medium-sized-ish or whatever, led by a tech priest Dominus. Little engine seer guy next to him. Got 10 Vanguard, and then 10 Rangers, 5 Sicarian Ruststalkers, 3 Cataphron Breachers, 1 Iron Strider, and 2 Castellan Robots. Yay! AdMech from Mars! So this will be our Thousand Suns patrol. It's gonna be a funny game for these guys. So we have a regular Exalted Sorcerer who is not on Smoke or a Disc. He knows Weaver of Fates and Diabolic Strength. So we have an Exalted Sorcerer who's on this like weird smoky stuff. He knows Warp Time and Glamour of Tzeentch. And then we have the Exalted Sorcerer on the disc who knows Prescience and also Weaver of Fates. And then this happy little 10-man block of Rubric Marines, 4 Flamers, 4 Bolters, the Soul Reaper Cannon, and then the Sorcerer guy knows Tzeentch's Firestorm. And finally, we have 2 5-man groups of the Scarab Occult Terminators. This one has a Heavy Warp Flamer, the Hellfire Missile Rack, and the Aspiring Sorcerer knows Doombolt. This one has the Soul Reaper Cannon. It also has the Hellfire Missile Rack, and the Sorcerer also knows Doombolt. These guys are actually going to be in their teleportarium just waiting for the opportune moment to come down and stomp on some AdMech. But these 4 units will be starting out. Alright. So we have 1,000 Suns grouping for the experience. I'm going to roll deployment, set things up. And this is going to be an interestingly awesome game. The AdMech won the deployment roll, so they decided to be in the ruined castle side. So we have the Ruststalkers on the building here, with the Iron Strider behind them. Castellan Robots and the Engine Seer on this far right side. I guess it's not the far right side. Vanguard and Rangers in the building. I've always wondered why it says Vanguard in the name, but they don't get the Vanguard deployment. That's just me wondering. And then the Breachers and the Dominus on the side. So that left 1,000 Suns over here on this side. So 3 Exalted Sorcerers kind of sort of in the front, with the Rubric Marines slightly behind. The irony of this, sometimes I'll do best 2 out of 3 for deployment rolls. And I did that this time. I actually rolled out 3 just because, even though the 1,000 Suns lost all 3 rolls, and then they actually did roll a 6 to steal. So yeah, we'll start with the 1,000 Suns for movement. Alright, so everybody just advanced forward. So for the psychic phase, the Exalted Sorcerer in the middle, the green smoke one. Gonna try and manifest Warp Time on the Rubric Marines. Goes up on a 6. Alright, gets it on a 9. So the Rubric Marines move forward again to their max move. Alright, so that's the Rubik's move down off the hill. Can't shoot the heavy weapon because they advanced. Definitely not close enough to charge anything, so that'll make it the Admech turn. Movement. Well, I guess they get a Mechanical first and then movement, but... So I picked Incantation of the Iron Soul, which allows them to reroll failed morale tests. It says I have to pick a can't, but I don't see anybody gonna be able to shoot or fight, so... I don't know. Can't pick the same one twice. Yeah, weird things. Pretty much everybody advanced forward. Nobody made it off the hill, unfortunately. No psychic powers for these guys, so shooting. Alright, so the Iron Strider managed to actually kill off one of these Rubric Marines. And unfortunately that was all that happened for Admech. Definitely not close enough to charge, so take it back to the Thousand Sun turn for movement. Okay, so the two Exalted Sorcerers that are not on a disc advanced forward. The Rubric Marines and the... Every time I look at this, it makes me think about Tensor's floating disc and how you can use it to just carry you all over the place in D&D. So, I'm sure it's a Tzeentch's floating disc, but it looks like a Tensor's floating disc. Either way, this Exalted Sorcerer and the Rubrics just moved forward. So, yeah. The guy that knows prescience, which I think is the one on the disc, is going to try and manifest prescience on the Rubrics. Psychic phase, yeah. Goes up on a 7. Rolled exactly a 7, so the Rubrics are +1 to hit in the shooting phase. So then the Aspiring Champion in there amongst the Rubric Marines. Gonna try and manifest the Tzeentch's Firestorm on the 18 inches would be these guys. Vanguard. Goes up on a 7. Gets it on a 9. So that's 9d6. Every 6 is a mortal wound. Regrettably, there are no 6s in that bunch at all, so... At least they're +1 to hit because of the prescience. That'll make it the shooting phase. Okay, so the Rubrics managed to kill off 6 of the Vanguard. There wasn't anybody they could charge. So they failed their first morale roll and got their reroll from the Mechanical, and then failed it worse. So the remaining 4 Vanguard ran away. Probably the only ones that live out of this, based on that experience. I mean, it was awesome to see, but it was also kind of, I mean, it was nice that the Mechanical was there to help, but it didn't help. Either way, yeah, I mean, that was, like I said, that was funny to watch. That makes it the Admech's turn for movement. Hopefully a Mechanical that helps. Alright, so the Mechanical for this round is the Benediction of the Omnissiah, which allows them to reroll once to hit in the shooting phase. So for the movement portion, everybody moved forward, nobody advanced. Okay, this guy didn't move at all, but everybody else moved. These guys made it through the fence door right there. These guys made it up the hill. The ensues did not. The Rangers have tentatively, kind of, carefully, cautiously moved forward because the last guys to get this close kind of got vaporized. And down there, the Breachers and the Dominus are just continuing making their slowish kind of way down this way. So, shooting phase for the AdMech. Okay, so the Iron Strider and the Castlin robots did a lot of damage to the Exalted Sorcerer on a disc, but they didn't kill him. So the Rangers actually managed to kill off a couple of the Rubric Marines. The Catapron Breachers killed off a couple of Rubric Marines. So for charges... Alright, so these Rust Stalkers over here are going to try and charge into the Exalted Sorcerer on a disc. See how it goes. Holy crap. Yeah, so the Rust Stalkers definitely made it in. They definitely killed off the Exalted Sorcerer. That was super crazy. These guys did not run away in morale, thankfully. Oofed. Alright, well that'll make it the Thousand Suns turn. Man, that Rust Stalker thing was ridiculous and rough and pretty unnecessary. By the way, that'll make it movement. Alright, so the Rubrics and the Exalted Sorcerers over here didn't move at all. But this squad of Terminators, the Soul Reaper Cannon group, came down around this mausoleum. And then the Terminators with the Heavy Warp Flamer popped in over here by this statue. Alright, Psychic phase. Alright, so the Aspiring Sorcerer out of this Terminator squad is going to try and do Doombolt at the Castlin robots. Goes off on a 9. Well, he perils and it goes off, so they take D3 damage. So they take 2 damage and they're at half movement speed next turn. So the other Terminator over there is going to try and do Doombolt against these Catapran Breachers. Also goes off on a 9. Did not get it. Alright, so the Aspiring Sorcerer out of the Rubrics is going to do Zinch's Firestorm. Goes off on a 7. And that'll go for the Catapran Breachers over there. Does not get it on a 6. Alright, and then I believe the regular non-smoke, non-disc Exalted Sorcerer is going to try and do Diabolic Strength on the Rubrics. Goes off on a 7. A 6. Either way, gets it on an 8. So that's plus 2 to strength, I think. Plus 1 attacks. I'll have to double check my notes. And yeah, I guess the green smoke one will try and smite the Rust Stalkers. Gets it on a 5. Does 1 damage. Alright, I'll go around and remark all the damage and the deaths and whatnot, and we'll do some Thousand Suns shooting. Okay, so the Terminators on the far side did a little bit of damage to the Breachers. The Rubric Marines actually managed to kill off a couple of these Rangers. These Terminators did a little bit of damage to one of these Castlin robots. I wish I could say that the Exalted Sorcerers did anything at all, but they both rolled 1s to hit. Certainly didn't help them. So the charge phase. So the Rubric Marines and the Exalted Sorcerer that's like floating in the air, both those guys are going to charge into the Rust Stalkers here. Alright, well the Rubrics and the Exalted Sorcerer made their charges. Managed to kill off one of the Rust Stalkers. Unfortunately, the Rust Stalkers did kill off all of the Rubrics, which makes me sad. Even worse makes me sad because now it's the Admech's turn. Movement and a Canticle. Alright, so we're going to go with the Canticle of Chant of the Remorseless Fist, which gives them the chance to reroll ones to hit in the fight phase. And then the Dominus completely healed off the wounded Cataphragm Breacher. The Engine Seer healed up the Castling Robot a little bit. These guys all moved up. The Bellastar is probably never going to move again. The Rangers moved down off the hill. And the Cataphragm Breachers kind of put more of their attention on these Terminators and have started moving this way along with the Dominus. I think the Rust Stalkers are just going to stay in combat with the Sorcerer. Probably seems the best use of their time. So that'll take us into the shooting phase. Okay, so the Belisari and the two Castling Robots managed to kill off a couple Terminators on the far side over there. Rangers shot at the Exalted Sorcerer and didn't really do anything. These guys shot at the Terminators, but these guys actually managed to save. So the charging phase, the Castling Robots are going to charge into the remnants of the Terminators over there. These guys are going to do their fight phase combat thing. I'm going to try and charge uphill with these Breachers into these Terminators. I don't know if that's going to work, but it's worth a try. Alright, well the Castling Robots easily made their charge, but surprisingly, these Cataphragm Breachers actually made it into an uphill charge. I was super amazed. These guys killed two of the Terminators and took a little bit of damage. Castling Robots definitely killed their two. Unfortunately, well, fortunately for the Admech, unfortunately for the Thousand Suns, but these Rust Stalkers killed off the Sorcerer that they were taking on. Okay. That'll make the Thousand Suns turn for movement. So, with their forces greatly diminished, this Exalted Sorcerer is gonna move over and try and take these Rust Stalkers on. These Terminators are just gonna stay in combat with the Breachers here. Alright, so the Psycho phase. The Exalted Sorcerer is just going to try and cast Smite on the Rust Stalkers. Maybe if I can get about the 7. Does 1 damage. So the Terminator here is going to try and cast Doombolt on these Cataphragm Breachers. Does not get it with a 7. Shooting phase? Pretty sure that Exalted Sorcerer has a pistol. He does in fact have a pistol, and he absolutely sucks at using it. So that'll take us to the charge phase, where the Exalted Sorcerer is going to try and charge. I mean, he'll probably successfully charge. into these rust stalkers. But after what they did to the last one, I'm not entirely sure about his chances. And then combat between these Terminators and these Breachers. So the Exalted Sorcerer made his charge. He killed off one of the Rust Stalkers and didn't take any damage of his own. Over here, the Terminators killed off one of the Breachers and lost another Terminator. Alright, so that makes it the AdMech turn. So our Canticle this time is the Invocation of Machine Might, giving everybody a +1 to strength. So the Rust Stalkers and the Breachers both fell back. The Rangers here started moving towards the Terminator. The Castle and Robots started moving up towards the Exalted Sorcerer. The Iron Strider's never going to move again. But no Psychers. So the shooting phase, which might be the end of our Chaos Heroes' turn. Well, their time here anyway, not their turn. So, AdMech shooting. So between the Castle and Robots and the Iron Strider Ballistari, they got the Exalted Sorcerer down to 1. The Rangers actually killed off the other Terminator. So the charge phase. These Castle and Robots are absolutely going to charge into this Exalted Sorcerer. We'll see how this ends up. I'm starting to think that I might have to buy a separate grouping of dice just for Imperium because the Chaos dice are certainly helping these guys out. They definitely made their charge. They didn't take any damage in Overwatch, and they tore him apart. Maybe, I mean, they got claws. They probably didn't squash him. They probably tore him apart. Sad face. So that means that this guy is the last Thousand Sun still on the table, and it's his turn. Well, I guess we're not going to move with him. So the Psychic phase, he's going to try and do Doom Bolt on the Breachers. Sadly, he does not get it with a 3. This guy actually doesn't have a gun, so he can't shoot. That means all he can do is charge, so he's going to try and charge into the Cataphrone Breachers. Alright, so he definitely did not make the charge. That 3-inch drop off the hill did not assist him in any way, so yeah. Failed charge. I mean, he didn't die in Overwatch, there's that at least, you know? They failed to hit, he failed to charge. No, what do they say? No harm, no foul? No blood, no foul. That's what it is. Unfortunately, though, for him, that does make it the AdMech turn. So with the exception of the Iron Strider back there, everybody started moving closer to the Terminator. The Breachers got back up on the hill. So shooting phase. Alright, yeah, his days were kind of numbered there. There was enough things that were close to him, so the Breachers did in fact kill him off, though. It's kind of like point blank range. Alright, so the AdMech win this game. If you made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. I wasn't entirely sure about this one. Originally I was trying to do an AdMech game without Belisarius Call, so to make it fair against the Thousand Suns point-wise, or power level-wise. I took out the Zangors, and maybe I shouldn't have. I mean, they're still equal power level at the end of the day, but I don't know. I guess I had higher hopes in the Thousand Suns and their Psyker capabilities. I don't know. I'd say that it's a good lesson to learn, but I probably didn't actually learn it. I don't know. Either way, If you made it this far, thank you again, and have a wonderful day.